Hey y'all, I'm Sean.
I'm Matthew, and we are Broken Dreams Reborn. And we never really wanted to do a video like this, primarily because we didn't want to be those kind of people who just seem to whine and complain and everything goes wrong. That's not us. And we told you in the beginning of this channel when we first started that we would always be truthful with you. We'll tell you the good and the not so good. So here it goes. Before we ever ordered our Reflection 337 RLS fifth wheel from Grand Design through Lazy Days, we looked at all the specifications, and not just on the rumor mill, but we looked on Grand Design's website, looked at their spec sheets, talked to people from Grand Design, talked to people from Lazy Days, and they told us that the freshwater tank was 80 gallons. One 80-gallon freshwater tank. So fast forward 2 months after we picked up our 337 RLS. We picked it up on March 22nd, and on May 22nd of the same year, we wanted to see how good the freshwater sensors were, how accurate they were, because when we do boondocking, we want to have every ounce of water we can in there so we don't have to keep filling it up. You understand. So we got a flow meter. It measures the water flow that goes in. Before you can do that, you have to empty it. So we turned on the pump, we emptied it until it was dry. We pulled the freshwater release valve, which is back there by the back tires, and then it was empty. There might be a tiny bit of water in the lines, to be fair, but as far as we could tell, it was empty. So we hooked up the flow meter, and lo and behold, we were sitting there on the picnic table watching it, and all of a sudden, what did you notice?
I was on my phone because I knew we had a few more gallons to go, and then I just started hearing water, and I'm like, where is that water coming from? And what did you say?
It was coming out of the overflow tube. It was a blue tube that's right next to the water tank itself, where you can pull a white valve and it dumps the water out the bottom. Or you can wait for it to go through this overflow valve. You shouldn't do that, by the way, but it was at just over 60 gallons, 61 gallons when that happened. And that makes a difference to us, because that's one of the real reasons why we bought this model, aside from the layout and the reputation, the stellar reputation that Grand Design has. We bought it because of its gray tank, fresh tank, and black tank capacities, because we plan on doing a lot of boondocking. In fact, our budget kind of requires it. So we're disappointed. Now, what are we going to do about it? I'm going to call Grand Design and politely discuss this with them and see if that gets anywhere. Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. And after that, we are going to, following weekend, we're going to do another test. And this might not affect you or your life, but if you plan on buying a Grand Design, or you have one already, and maybe you might be a little bit iffy as to whether this affects you or not, this could be your situation. We're just here to educate, and we want people to not take manufacturer's word for it. You have to verify every last thing. So we had the phone call with Grand Design, and the whole thing from front to back was polite. Let me put it that way. However, here's how it went. I called, I eventually got connected with a guy, and I forgot his name, or I'd give you his name. And we talked, and he listened to the problem, he understood the problem, and he said, first of all, it should be a 74-gallon tank with 6 gallons of fresh water in the hot water heater tank. Well, we have a tankless hot water heater, so tankless, no 6 gallons. So, all right, should be a 74-gallon tank. Now, from there, he said several times, but you shouldn't be getting 60 gallons. I mean, he said there should be some gallons in the piping, a certain amount of here and there, but 60 gallons to 74, that's a little bit too far. He doubts that that could explain it away. But then he tried. He started saying, but really, if you want to get all of it out of your tank, and I'm not making this up, he said you might have to put some boards under it and be on level and go this way or that way. I mean, he didn't use his hand, but I'm showing you what he talked about. And he said there might be a lip in there, and it could be just that lip in the tank holds some water back, and that's how the conversation went. If you're telling me that I have to play twister and be a pretzel with the rig and have it at all sorts of horrific angles and stuff, which is exactly what he said. Have some boards, make it up at an angle, you gotta tilt it and all this stuff. I said my refrigerator won't run when it's more than half a bubble off, or at least it's not good for it, because it's an absorption fridge. It wants to be sort of level. So the next step after the phone call was me emailing the service advisor or warranty manager. Forgive me, I don't know what their titles are. But the people, when you call Grand Design Warranty, they call you back or you get to talk to them. I had previously talked to one of them, a guy who had made an outstanding appointment for us to go get some other warranty work done, some other stuff, which we'll explain in another video. Then he said, all right, I will get them to look at the tank, and one thing it could be is maybe the overflow valve by the tank manufacturer was just put in the wrong place. Maybe that's too low. And I wrote him back and said, you know what, thank you, because that seems like a reasonable explanation. I had never thought of that, and I appreciate it. Also, I appreciate, basically getting them to look at that at the appointment. Anytime I've wanted to add something onto this service appointment, they've had no problem with it.
In this part of the test, the first thing we are doing is emptying our fresh water tank. Y'all, it takes forever to dump this fresh tank. And it was, on 1/3 when we started?
So then our next step is to turn on the city water to fill the fresh tank and see how much it holds. That is reset to 0. Alright, the next step is for us to take a 5-gallon bucket and keep filling 5-gallon bucket until no water comes out of the fresh tank. We just filled the fresh tank and we have that amount, but now we're going to double check it with how much comes out on the other end. And then a splash. So basically we put in almost 62 gallons, and as you saw in the video, then it started leaking out the overflow tube. So we could even call it 62 if you want to be generous. And then we got out, 63 gallons and a splash, and maybe a little bit more, but I didn't want to burn up the water pump with no water going through it. So I'm not a technical person, I don't know if that would happen, so better safe than sorry. So 63 plus a little bit. But I don't want to hear from an expert plumber's opinion as to, well, there really is that much water and it's over here and it's over there, and that's kind of what I've heard so far. No. Either I can use what's available to me or I can't. And if I can't use what's available to me, then it might as well be on Mars, because it does me no good. If it's a 74-gallon tank, I should reasonably be able to expect to get 72, 73 gallons even might be acceptable, but we're getting 63, in a splash. That's not good enough.
So we got to visit Grand Design Service Center and we got an answer on our water tanks.
That's right. They took it out, they evaluated it, they did their own testing to see how much water they could put in it and get out of it, and they really did spend some time on it. They did not just look it up in a computer and say, this is the way it is, go away. They did spend some time on it. Like I said, we got 61-ish gallons in and out of it in both tests, which we took a video of the second one, and they got about 63, so really close to ours. Later on in the tour, we got to see where the water tank sits, and we got to see all the plumbing and everything around it, so everything they told us was verified with our own two eyes. We saw every stage of development in our tour, and so they told us that the tank is only so big. It's not tall, it's wide and sort of flat. So it requires air, an air pocket in the top. And they showed us where the drain was, or they told us there was a drain. And when we took the tour, we saw the drain. And one manufacturer makes most of these water tanks. So the drain has to be below the top in order for there to be air in the top of it. And the air has to be there for it to function properly. Now, of course, I'm sure they already knew that, but they wanted to make sure that there was nothing odd with our tank. They said that our tank is, and they did look up the either the serial number or the markings on the tank to see exactly what it is registered to be, and it's a 78-gallon tank, but that includes that air. Now here comes the whole thing being put together. Grand Design on their website says 80 gallons freshwater capacity, 78-gallon tank. It used to be that it would be like 80 gallons and then a 6-gallon hot water tank, but we have a tankless hot water heater, so that doesn't count anymore for our equation. 78-gallon tank, 80 gallons on the website, 62, 63 gallons in and out usable. Includes all the piping and everything until it runs dry. 62, 63 gallons in the RV that we can use at any given time until it's gone. So I told them, just as I'm going to tell you, I appreciated all the hard work that they did. I appreciated them treating us with respect, which they did. They treated us like we mattered and our issues mattered, and any concerns we had were important to them because they were important to us, and we got treated like real people. I did tell them that, and I thanked them for that, and I was very grateful for that. And I said, but if you're going to pass along anything to anybody else in the company, here's what you can say. That's false advertising. And it's not just a few gallons off. If you advertise 80 and you don't put any footnotes on the website, because there are none, then the marketing team is not doing your company a good service. It's not their fault. In the service department, they are wonderful people. You ought to trust them. You really should trust them. Go to Grand Design to get your Grand Design work done. They are the people who should be doing it. I would recommend all of them highly. I have no problems with anybody there. What I am saying is the marketing department is not treating us with respect. They say 80 gallons and it's really a 78-gallon tank. All right, I can live with that. But then it's not usable gallons of water, it's air and water in that tank. So really it's 60, let's go with the high estimate, 63 gallons of usable water till it's dry. If we bought this rig partially for boondocking, which we did, and we wanted to have the longest amount of time possible before we start to have to go get more water with a water bladder or whatever else and try to fill it up, then this decreases the amount of time we have before we have to do that. Now, it's not a big deal in the long run to be able to have to fill up your tank, but it shouldn't matter to them whether it's a big deal or not. They flat out blew away anything close to being credible or the truth, and I'm really upset about that, because the dealers didn't know any better. Even the shop people didn't know exactly the numbers until they did all their investigations, and then they put it all together for me. So we like many things about our Grand Design, don't we? Mm-hmm. And we have nothing but the utmost amount of respect for the service technicians who have gone above and beyond, and we'll do a video about that, but they went above and beyond the call of duty with all the warranty work that we had. They did a fine job. You should trust them and you should go to them. But I do have a problem with the advertising folks and the marketing folks who do not treat us like we're real human beings, and they just treat us like we're just simpletons who'll just believe anything. Well, I guess we fell for it and we did. But are we sorry we bought the Grand Design?
No. We love this Grand Design.
We do. This is our home. We wouldn't have it any other way. We really love living in this rig. It is a fantastic RV. I just wish the advertising people would grow a conscience.
And this might not just be a problem with Grand Design. It could be all over the board. So,
Yep.
like we showed you in the video how we were able to check it flow meter. So, maybe y'all should check your tanks and see if they're reading the correct. Because if you want to go out boondocking, you want to kind of know how much fresh water you really have. But if y'all have any comments or questions about anything in this video that we discussed or we didn't discuss, just ask us a question and we'll try our best to answer it. We answer all comments.
Yeah, we really appreciate the BDR community, and we appreciate you with your comments and your questions and your messages of support. It really means a lot to us. Let's help keep it going. Please make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way YouTube will tell you when we put up more content. And please share with somebody. If you like this content, you probably know somebody else who would as well. Share it with them.
And give us a thumbs up.
Yes, please.
Bye.
Bye.